G'day everybody and welcome to TFC Live Season 3 Episode 42 Bounty 15 Preview, TLCs and more. Hope you're all having a good week. Tonight we've got Andrew with me. Hello Andrew, how are you?
Oh, not too bad, Rue. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. For those in the audience, Mark is away this week, so Andrew and I will be hosting, and then hopefully Ren will be joining us here later on. So let's go ahead and dive right in here, and I hope everybody can see the slides. So slide pack content today, we've got some reduction in VXP with direct purchases. We've got Bounty 15 and we have DevilDriver and Whiplash TLCs, Hidden Depth TLCs and some bug fixes. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. Bounty starts tomorrow. That's the 18th at about 10 a.m. Pacific time and finishes Monday morning on the 22nd at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Not much changes this time around. We still have no flat value from the player bases, so just the regular bounty that's available. As far as we're aware, there are no defense fleets in the replica bases. The hit minimum level cap is still at 80. That is remaining and has been in place for the last one. So basically, the event is identical to the format of the last one. There is one change that I will go through in a moment, and they have done some upgrades to the event store. So you want to take this one, Andrew?
Sure. There'll be a bounty drip of 800 points granted every 6 hours at 10 a.m., 4 p.m., 10 p.m., or 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is if you've upgraded your outpost to the maximum 4 levels. Each day we'll have a limited number of daily charges to secure our bounty. Day 1 we'll have 4 charges. Day 2 and 3 we'll have 3 charges. Same as the last, 4 or 5 in a row? I think just reduced daily charges this time.
Yeah, and this was the one change that was different. I went back and actually looked at the slides. The last couple had showed like 5, or excuse me, on day 1 it was 5, then it was like 4, 4, and then it was like 3, 3, 3. So this surprised some people last bounty. So it looks like this is, I guess, the new norm where day 1 you get 4 charges and then the rest of the days you get 3 charges.
All right, and as a note, you get 5 daily charges on the first day as you log onto the bounty, no matter when you do that. And at 10K, we secure automatically. Yep.
So again, other than the daily charge changes, nothing in there. And yeah, Ford, I checked it like 5 times, and that's the way that it was. So okay, replica bases. These, of course, are the opponent bases that are on the world map. These are copies of real player bases that spawned as an NPC target and pay out bounty. So if you played bounty last season, your base is in the list to be copied, and then it gets copied real time throughout the process. So you'll see some bases at the beginning that are all perfectly repaired, and then as it goes on, every now and then you'll catch some that are still kind of in that repaired mode. Guard fleets have been removed, and I'm sorry, there's a typo in there for 13, but that should be for 15. And then, of course, the dock auto repair is still on. So if you do get hit, there is no 4-hour not log in and your base is safe. If somebody does hit your base after your bubble falls, you can and will lose bounty if your dock is automatically repairing. Okay, Nexus Information, 5 Nexuses per world, as far as we know. Same drip is 25 per every 60 minutes. There are 2 rounds of Nexuses. There was not information pertaining to this in the notes, but I assume that it's the same as it was last time, which is where we have one that I think finishes on Friday, and then the other one finishes on the Monday morning. So it's 2,000 bounty for the first bonus, and then 4,400 bounty for the second bonus. And as it has been for the last couple of bounties, if you want to change alliances so that you can join a bigger alliance to take advantage of the Nexus bonus, that has to happen prior to bounty starting. So let's take a look at some of the prizes that are coming up for this one. Bounty 15 prize, the main prize on this one is the High Guard Curator. I really like the artwork on this one, but this is the flagship Curator, improves the ballistic and radioactive reload, as well as accuracy of all weapons for all defenders in the fleet, which I thought was kind of interesting. Now you have to make that choice between the High Guard Warden and the High Guard Curator, because obviously you can only have one. So let's take a look at some of the stats. Now, Andrew, you said you had done some comparison on this?
Yes, I looked at the High Guard Curator, the High Guard Warden, and the Omni Behemoth, the three last flagship defenders that we got. And one of the things that immediately struck me about this High Guard Curator was the lack of gigantic special abilities that the High Guard Warden and the Omni Behemoth do. Both of these have a field that extends out to either 195 or 200. Whereas this one, the High Guard Curator, all it seems to give is that ballistic and radioactive reload, as well as that 15% accuracy. And that 15% accuracy is nice. That would help my countermeasures on my ships, but I would much rather have a 195 range field that slows ships by 35% and projectile speed by 50%, which the Omni does. So I'm not quite sold on this High Guard Curator as the flagship of choice in base guards.
Even with that special ability that applies to all ships in the fleet?
That plus 15% accuracy is very low. I mean, I like it because accuracy is very hard to get on ships, but yeah, I like the bigger fields better.
Yeah, it'd have been really nice if the reload bonus had included concussive for like the Siren, but it's only ballistic in the radioactive reload.
In addition, under detection, we have a 95 thermal imaging range, but on the Omni we have a 390 sonar and some thermal on there, which allows us to detect subs always at maximum range before they can possibly fire. This 95 thermal range is good, but that 390 sonar was better. I'm just not sold.
Yeah, I have heard others say the same. The good thing is that it's not three of them, so there's only one that we have to get if you like to get it. So okay, that's the High Guard Curator. XR Plate 3. We all kind of expected that this one was going to be coming. This is the last one, I think, in the series that I'm aware of. Radioactive deflection over 800k and explosive deflection for 800k as well. So provides explosive and radioactive deflection to conquerors and defenders and can only be equipped on a single hull once. So you got any thoughts on this one?
Wow, that is interesting. Well, my base is currently rigged for 8 radioactive with a radioactive faction on it. So that is going to cause a bit of a problem for my base defense. I will have to rethink that after the bounty.
Yeah, there's a lot that are running, myself included, that are running the turrets, and so yeah, this kind of puts a kink in the works now. It's also rather heavy as well. It's about 1200 there, so not a light one. So yeah, as Ford has said, radioactive bases are going to need to make some changes with this one. Okay, Ballistic Scope. We were all expecting this one as well. I think this is maybe the last one in the series. We've got all the missile, and the other ones, ballistic one to come out. Again, as with the other ones, ballistic damage is reduced by 35%, but the range is increased by 9%. I'm just trying to think, though, of what ship this would go on or what I would use this for, because I don't see anything right now.
Well, there are some tricky low-level ballistic guns, which wouldn't do damage nowadays, but with extra range, you might find useful in your base. Offhand, the Scrambler cannon that reduces accuracy of enemy ships, or the Disruptor cannon, which slows down enemy ships as they come in. There's a couple of tricky ballistics that might get a use out of this.
Yep, Oh, and as somebody just mentioned in chat, yeah, I didn't even think of that. The Curator in defense too would benefit from this. I was distracted by Snoopy square bases, but anywho. So yeah, this one's coming in as well. Again, we've got all the other ones, so we were kind of expecting this one to come through. And then the Radioactive Force, powerful Conqueror and Defender special that decreases the range of radioactive weaponry in exchange for extra radioactive firepower. So this is the opposite. This one drops the range, but increases the damage by 35%.
I would have to do some math to see if we have any radioactive weapons that, even with this boost, could be able to punch through moderate deflection. It completes the set. It's another great tool in the toolbox. So,
yep. Okay, so let's take a look at the prizes that are out there. One of the things that we have talked about numerous times since Bounty started was the amount of points that it was taking for prizes, and about how Bounty was basically an extra raid, and that you had to put in an inordinate amount of seat time and go out and hit a bazillion player bases and map targets in order to be able to get all the points to get all of the new stuff. And so we ran a comparison, and I probably should have put that in with this slides, but I didn't think to, is how many points that it took all the way through. And so in here, we've got the new stuff. And so we've got 20 for the High Guard Curator, and then another 30 for the 3 special. So if you're not getting any of the tokens or anything else, that's 50,000 points and you're done.
And that Curator is less points than I expected it at. I expected it to be close to 30 to 40,000.
Yeah, normally the 47,000 ones are where you get 3 of a hull. So where it's like 3 onslaughts or 3 missile cruisers, or witch doctors or stuff like that. The defenders are generally around this, but it is usually only one hull. But still, 50,000 points is doable, and it's certainly not going to take away days like it does when you have to get 150, 160,000 points.
True.
Yep. And for those that did not get the Siren last time, you can get 2 of them this time for 10,000 points each. So those are the top prizes. Then we move down into some of the lower level ones. This is at the 5,000 point range, and there's some really good stuff that's in here. The one that jumps out at me, something that everybody has been screaming for, and that's the EMP Overload. So those are 5K each, and you can get an additional 5 of those up to the limit that you're allowed. Any thoughts on any of these, Andrew?
No, there's a couple of mortars in there. They're okay, and we can pick up all of the countermeasures. So excellent.
Yep. So lots of extra redeems on that. A good chance, because it is so low points wise with how many there is for new stuff. If you're somebody like me that kind of sometimes gets all of the high stuff, but at the expense of not potentially filling up or gathering the rest of the lower stuff, this is a good opportunity for someone to catch up and get some of that stuff at a reduced price, and while you're not under pressure to go ahead and get some of the other stuff.
Yeah, I personally need the CMCT reloader, which I missed last bounty. Oh well.
Yeah, I use the last of my EMP Overload, so I'm very happy to see that in there. Okay, so taking a look at the next level, that's the 2,400 point range. We've got catastrophic mortar build tokens. We've got some gargoyle tokens. There's scattergun tokens. So if you're somebody that worked really hard and went ahead and got those turrets either in the FM or in the last bounty, you can go ahead and get tokens to instant build those if you're unable to get base parts. They've also popped in the Phantom Gluttony in there for those that don't have that, as well as some of the stuff and the Missile Storm Cruiser. And then they have also included Defender class tokens. And I think I saw something earlier, I think it was Damnation that picked it up. There's a limit to how many Defender class build tokens you can hold. So you want to make sure that if you are redeeming those or planning on redeeming those, that you've not locked your shipyard up to where you cannot use them. Now, again, the bounty store is usually open. I think it's for 4 days after bounty finishes. It's not like the raid where it's only 1 day. So just plan accordingly, because there are limits on how many you can hold for that.
I would also like to say that I'm pleased to see the missile storm cruiser in here, as last bounty, wasn't it the incinerator that was
Yes.
the lower level Conqueror hull? So here at least we're getting tier 7 hull at a great price.
Yep. And and it's such a versatile hull. I still was out using my 3, and I did no refit. I've done no refits on these things since I first built them. 3 generic missile storm cruisers, and I ran those hitting NPC bases for the last couple of bounties. Didn't add anything to them. I did run like an Ifrit by itself, and this time I'll probably run a Witch Doctor. But I was still using my plain Jane missile storm cruisers as they'd been built in the beginning, and was just hitting the bases that I could take with them. And the fact that Kix has got the locator out there now, so that you don't have to waste a whole bunch of time trying to find the lower NPC targets, you can take a couple of these out and rack up some serious points.
And the price is great at 2,400 points. That's 1 day sitting in your base doing nothing.
Exactly, yeah. So, and for those that did get the hull, or maybe didn't get the rest of it, the rest of the toys are in here. So don't overlook it. Yes, it's an older hull, but it's not one that's useless. It is viable. I still have one that runs around in my base defense that I use as well. So for the folks that are maybe not able to get all of the top stuff, give it a go. So that's the 2,400 point level. And then the next one that we've got is 1,700. This has got some good stuff in it. If you do not have the gluttonies or all the pieces to it, it's got the model missile, which is one of my favorites in the game. And then it's got the missile system as well as the gluttony itself. And then Harlock's Alpha Behemoth build tokens and the Harlock's Alpha Behemoth hull. So there is another one that might be something for a lower level to be able to use.
I would also like to point out the chromium overlay. That's a base defense special. It hasn't been out for a while, and considering we're being hit by witch doctors that seem to have a bunch of scatterguns on it, perhaps that's one to pick up and put into your base, or at least have in your toolbox, as that provides 20% corrosive defense to all nearby buildings and turrets, I believe.
Yeah, and actually, you mentioned the witch doctors, and I'll throw this out there. I think I talked about this on the bounty review that we did. I had 2 full witch doctors done because I had hoarded a bunch of the I can't remember the TLC, whatever the TLC was that got you the Chaos Chain Gun, all of those Conqueror tokens. And so I built 2 of the Witch Doctors because I thought it was really cool. And there were a couple of bases, with that had wardens and all the other stuff with not only lockdown rockets, but the EMP overloads. And boy, I walked my Witch Doctors into a couple of those bases, and it was like running into a brick wall, and I could not move. Yeah. So all of these little things kind of all add up. And so even though you may be fighting one of the newest hulls, there are ways to go ahead and stop those.
And the price is right.
Okay, and then the last point level that we've got is 800, the 800 point level. So we've got some Valiant tokens here, as well as the Valiant, the Calamity Scattergun, and then compressed corrosion canisters. The Calamity Scattergun, if you don't have it and you are running Tide Seekers and you don't have the newer scatterguns from the raid, those actually work really well on Tide Seekers.
They have a surprisingly large block of concussive damage, which
Yes.
can multiply out brilliantly.
Yep. And there's also some tokens in there as well. And like I said, the compressed corrosion canisters, those can be used in multiple places. So if you're someone that's just returning and still catching up, an opportunity at really low points. I mean, we're talking 800 points here. That's like one bounty drop, isn't it? One grant.
Yes, one drop.
Yep. So even if you logged in 10 minutes before it finished, that would give you the one plus the other 1,600. That there's 2 things that are there right there. So Kix has, I think this is the first time that we've had 800, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember anything being any less than 1,700 because I always ended up with like 900 points left over or something like that. But anyway, so those are the prizes. So again, Bounty 15. It will run from tomorrow through until Monday, as per usual, 4-day for the Bounty store. 50,000 points will pretty much get you all of the new stuff if you're not going for any tokens, and the ability for a lot of players to do a lot of catch up with this. Okay, so next up from the weekly update that we have is we have the VXP Purchase Adjustment, because I just know everybody spends a lot of money on their VXP. Ranking up your ships by directly purchasing VXP has received an update. So purchasing VXP ranks in the dock using gold is now discounted by 95%. And so I just grabbed a screenshot of one of my ships that was, you know, that last step right before it reaches gold, just to see how much it would cost to ram that through using gold. And I think it's like 300 and something gold down there.
338 gold.
Yeah, so to go from 74% to 75% on one proto Tide Seeker was, you know, 330 something gold. So that is getting a huge discount. Purchasing beyond Hunter 1 no longer caps out. Now that max cost is so much lower, and rather than only being able to purchase 1 to 3 ranks at a time, you can now, if you really want to, just basically go out and max your ship out completely. I would be very careful though, if you hit that button, make sure that you really, really want to do it, because it sounds like it could go all the way to the end.
Yeah, even with the 95% discount going from rank 0 all the way up to Scald, that's going to be a giant chunk of coins.
Yep. Okay. All right, so first of the TLCs, DevilDriver. Was this the one that you did, or was that the other?
I did the Whiplash one.
Okay, then I'll talk about this one. So we've got DevilDriver and Whiplash back again. If you remember, these were released last month. This was originally intended as if you got one of the hulls in the raid, this was the opportunity for you to go out and get the other hull. So if you got the Bat Rays, you could get the Razor Tails and vice versa. It was a very, very painful TLC, although we hoped that it would be an opportunity for people who maybe got pieces or like just the hull to get the specials. Unfortunately, that was not the case with some of the older hulls or with the half-built fleet. You pretty much had to have a full-built fleet, a super quick internet connection, and perfect little old lady driving to where you could go ahead and not take any damage. They did notate that this campaign has had its difficulty reduced since its previous run, and I'll let Andrew talk about that in just a minute on the Whiplash one. But for DevilDriver, Prize Pack 1 gives you the Bat Ray. Prize Pack 2 gives you GSU 7 Ripsaw Gatling Gun, as well as VXP tokens. Prize Pack 3 gives you the special VXP and build tokens, and the Mastery gives you the Specky badge, as well as the VXP tokens and then Bat Ray build tokens as well. So again, this is a full Manticore fleet. Even though they have reduced the damage, you still want a full Manticore fleet to go in there and do this. That's the Bat Ray one, which was DevilDriver. And then Andrew, if you want to take Whiplash.
Sure. The Whiplash one is the Razor Tail variant of this. Prize Pack 1 is the Razor Tail if you don't have it. Prize Pack 2 has the Needler rocket and the medium VXP token. Prize Pack 3 are the Wave Driver warheads, some more VXP tokens, and we're starting to get the Razor Tail build tokens. And the Mastery Pack has more VXP tokens and the Razor Tail build tokens, as well as the Razor Tail Edge badge. I did Prize Pack 2 with my Scatter Manticores, which full fleet of 5, and I found Prize Pack 2, I walked away with about 10.5 hours of damage. This could be due to the fact that I was trying to get it done in time for this show, but even so, I didn't find the damage to be particularly reduced. I did notice the fact that the damage was reduced and ships were dying faster to my scatter guns, but it still ended up with enough damage that I can only do one of these per day. I find it to be very frustrating.
I'm not sure. Has anybody in chat there done it? And did they see a reduction in damage? I'm not sure. Yeah, a couple people are saying not by much. So it looks like maybe it was easier to kill the ships versus the amount of damage that was taken, and therefore the quicker the less. I've not tried to do this yet, or any of them yet. I was using missile manticores, and I do know that last time when I did these TLCs, I was taking a lot less damage than folks that were doing the scatter version of the hull. So I don't think it was anything to do with driving. So yep, Corey's just saying he's using missile mantis and did it for 5 hours damage for PP2. So that actually does sound like a reduction. I want to say it was probably about 8 or 9 for me last time around. So it looks like maybe they have reduced it somewhat, although we're seeing more of that reduction from the missile hulls than we are from the scatter hulls. That being said, 3 hours of damage on a fully fledged sculled fleet, it still does not mean that somebody that's only got 3/4 of a fleet is really going to get anywhere. So, and as John said, risk versus reward. If you can do it without, even if it's like do one prize pack, then park your fleet overnight and then repair it, and then do the next prize pack, and even through like the mastery rounds. But risk versus how much you want to spend. I know there were some folks that were missing pieces that really needed to get, like the special or something like that, that probably spent a lot more coin than they normally would have on a TLC, but they needed those pieces. So think about what it brings for you, what the end result is, and whether you can do that.
And I have some ally mates who went razor tails for their fleet, but picked up the Bat Ray flagship. And this is an excellent opportunity for them to be able to get the weapons for the Bat Ray, which they did not get.
Yep, that's a good point. And just a reminder, most know it, but every now and then I come across somebody that doesn't. Regular tokens don't work on the flagship, so don't do these TLCs thinking that you can use the Razor Tail or the Bat Tail tokens on your respective flagship, because this will only work for the other ones. Okay, so that is the Whiplash TLC. And then let's take a look at Hidden Depths. I know a lot of people are just kind of like, yeah, whatever, don't need to do that, got all the stuff. There's some skirmish tokens in this one. This one starts on the 16th and runs through the 23rd. Traditional PvE campaign awards the the Fangtooth flagship blueprint build tokens and VXP tokens. This one requires the PBX payload for ownership.
That was a special that came with the Hunters. It's a depth charge critical.
Laredo, yep. That was the special that came with the Hunters. I know that people have hit Laredo and the rest of the mods up. I know it's been passed up to Kix. Couple of things on this one. First off, all of the reports from the last raid was that the Fangtooth did miserable. So not sure that this was actually the best TLC to offer for players for the raid, because yes, they could get a bunch of Fangtooth tokens, but for the most part, the reports that we got from everybody was that the Fangtooth kind of failed, and failed hard. So again, not sure it was that. And then the requirement for the PBX payload ownership, while I understood while they did that at the very beginning, because this was one of the second hulls that they had for that skirmish raid cycle, I can understand that way back then, but we're a year away from that now, so that requirement should have been removed.
Yes.
Yeah,
if I used my Bat Ray fleet on this TLC, and I was able to do all 4 of the prize packs all in a row, grand total repair on auto, 2 hours of damage. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Even if you don't use Fangtooth, I still urge you to do this just to get those skirmish build tokens.
Yep. And a lot of people in chat are saying, Mike had said in chat that prototypes do well. I know Hunters were doing okay in it. I'm not sure what the Razor tails were doing in it, but I know that it was doable. And as pointed out, you know, the prizes in this, although the Fangtooth itself may not be great for the skirmish raid, it is a fun hull. It's great to go out and hunt ships with it. But also included in this prize pack 1, of course, is the Fangtooth, the torpedo, as well as the torpedo tubes, and you can basically build multiple fleets with this. But included in prize pack 4, I think it's 4, is, there it is, 1-day skirmish class build tokens times 3. Now, skirmish class is skirmish class. It's not hull specific. So this is the campaign that you want to do to get tokens that will work on your flagship. So this one will come in handy for those that are still trying to, like me, that are still trying to finish their flagships, and also like me, that only get 3 days in the FM. These will come in handy to help finish out those hulls.
2 more days, and then my Bat Ray flagship is done. I'll be so happy.
Now, I have a little bit longer than 2 more days. Yeah, on a side note here, I'm going to sidetrack. The FM, and I'm going to ask this in chat as well. This was the first week that we had where you could get the lotto shards in the 120s and the 121s. I don't know whether it's just the game hates Rue or what, but it was like for every 1 shard that I wanted, I think I got like 20 that I didn't want. Did you see the same, Andrew?
Oh, yes. I got lots of the armor ones, and I didn't get any. Yeah, it was bad. It's not a clean thing. I'm not a big fan of loot boxes. I don't like the casino aspect of it. I like to know what I get when I do a prize. But
now, you know, I can understand. I could understand putting both the bat and the razor shards in either of those targets. I mean, yes, it would be nice to say 120s you'll get this and 120s you'll get that. But the thing that kind of frustrated me, and I got harassed by a lot of my ally mates on this too, you know, suggestion wise, was why are we putting Manticore, special Manticore stuff for a hull that is now basically, I don't want to call it a has-been, but you know, we're going to have a new hull for the next assault raid. So why are those weapon shards in the highest level of the FM? Why have we not put those in like the 101s or the 111s and or 114s?
yes, that's an excellent point, because yeah, it's a chore fleet now.
Yeah, so put those lower hull things in the lower targets that will really help, you know, the lower players that are hitting them, and allow them to get those shards. But, you know, I don't know whether it's just a matter of restricting getting the other stuff. I mean, you can only get 2 of the new weapons, which I know caused some confusion, but Laredo and others came back and confirmed that even though you potentially could claim 2 every week for X many weeks, you're only allowed to own 2 of them. So you're only allowed to have a max of 2 of them. Now, I was lucky that I was able to go out and get all of mine, and I ended up wasting points on things that I wouldn't normally waste them on just to go ahead and get those shards. But I know of other people that could not finish out what they were getting.
Oh, that Gale 2 that I have to buy every week for like 200,000 points annoys me to death.
Yeah. Maybe if they make it a Gale 3.
Yeah.
But okay, moving on to bug fixes. Fleets launched. Fleets are unable to be recalled or selected on the world map in the Fleet Manager system. Not sure exactly what this pertained to, other than I know it's really annoying that if you have a fleet selected, all of a sudden the recall button goes away and there's no way to get it back into your base. And then, of course, do you know what that was?
No, not sure what it was, but I do have an issue when I launch a fleet, and as it's launching, I try to tell it to go into a TLC or something like that, and it will tell me no fleet selected, even though my manticores are highlighted, and I have to like deselect my fleet and then reselect my fleet, and then I'm able to engage. So I don't know. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, not sure what that was, but Okay. Well, actually, that's all that we had for slides today. So let me just do that. Okay, so that was all that I had for official slides. Again, we had some repeat TLCs and then the bounty stuff. So if you missed the beginning of the show, you can go back and take a look at that. Wanted to spend a couple minutes, since we've not had Andrew on for a little while. Andrew is also in an alliance, and so what are some of the things outside of like PvP and PvE? What are some of the things that your folks are talking about being frustrated with?
Well, at the moment, my lower level players are still frustrated with trying to assemble all of the fleets they need. A fleet for base parts, a fleet for uranium, a fleet for titanium. And trying to get that all, just the build time on that is quite a pain. And trying to collect all the missing little bits of technology that they're that they need to have for all their ships. It's very frustrating for them. Especially when it comes to base parts, because the Hydras and Buccaneers, which are our primary ways of getting base parts, we haven't seen the radioactive or ballistic charged armor for them, so they can't complete the fleets and they can't get their stuff.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the same thing as well, with frustration with trying to catch up and finish. Like, I've got a group that are just now starting to finish up their manticores, and we're not able to get the razors in the fleet. They were able to get some stuff because Kix did put those extra targets on the map from the last raid, but are still trying to fill those out. So that's something that I think across the board that a lot of people are frustrated with, and not even just the lower levels. I still haven't finished my prototypes. They're still not ranked. I could use them, but not as well as what a lot of other people are. I'm using I think it's the famous TSM build that allows people to do stuff, but I couldn't justify the amount of cost that it was to fully rank them, so I'm still ranking those. Still haven't finished those things, so I'm still using my old fleets to do stuff and finishing and pulling up time to do those things. And so and I have all of the new fleets, so it's frustrating across all levels, I think, trying to catch up or get caught up and then maintain staying caught up. I took the missile route last time for the manticores, did not keep the scatter guns, did my refit for those. So that allowed me a little bit of time. I know people are doing multiple fleets with respects to the razor tails and the bat rays and the razor tails with respects to building both of those. And then there are some that are using half and half, and I just don't want to do that. I need to finish some of this other stuff so I can get my U as I need it, and that type of stuff. And speaking of refits, have you thought about making any changes to your raid fleet?
Well, besides putting Hyper 30 on all of my bat rays, which I found to be exceptionally useful and did cut down my damage, so I'm glad that's actually fixed. There is some confusion about the flagship bat ray, as everybody seems to have their own personal armor loadout. I personally am going with 4 hydrofoils, and once I bleed them in the raid and I can see how everybody else's fleet is doing, perhaps I'll refit after that. My higher level players are frustrated because we're all waiting for the refractor to happen, so we know what we can do with our base, with our PvP ships, and with our defenders, and if we have to change any of that stuff. So they're all basically holding their breath waiting for it. Yeah, it's a pretty slow time at the moment in my alliance. Everybody's just grinding along slowly.
Okay. Now I am going to try and see if I can pull this up, but I actually got a build from Mark on his razor tail. So bear with me here for 1 second. And can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So this is, Mark shared this with me. This is his Occam's razor tail. And I thought it was rather interesting because he's put some evade on his build here as well as some of the new armors. And so he's also looking at using the newer weapons on this. So this will, I think it's already on the website. If not, it will be on there soon. But I thought I'd go ahead, and he's given me this to share for folks to take a look at for his razor tail. And with the discussion that we had on this the other day, this should help him to go ahead and auto some of these targets. So I don't know if can you see that, Andrew, if you have any comments?
I do. I can see it, and my one question for Mark is, why is there the advanced concussive payload too? As the weapons on there are explosive, and I'm not sure that would help. Do the needlers have a chunk of concussive damage baked in?
I think they may do. That's an interesting question. I shall have to ping him on that.
Yeah, that's my one question on there. I would probably swap that out for warhead reloaders. That gives 25% explosive damage and 75% explosive reload.
Yeah, I've not seen what the new ones do. I'm not in the game, so I can't go in there and look at that, but the new ones may actually have that concussive in there. But okay, so I just wanted to go ahead and share that so that people could see that, and that if it's not, I will check. If it's not up there on the build screen, I'll make sure that it does get up on there. I don't have anything else that I wanted to talk about. Did you have anything else?
No, just have everyone have a good bounty and try not to get too stressed out about it. This doesn't seem to be that critical a bounty in terms of stuff that's available.
Yep. So again, 50K for all the new for all the new stuff. So a nice short bounty. Maybe time to catch up on some of the other stuff that's in there within the game and TLCs that are there. The 2 Whiplash and the DevilDriver ones that are out there, and finish up on refits and all of that fun stuff. So with that, I know we're a little bit early, but I don't want to waste folks' time. So I'm just going to go ahead and end this here, and then hopefully on Saturday we will have the open mic on Saturday. But come on out and join us and discuss some of your thoughts on the TLCs and bounty as it goes for 15. So with that, thanks everybody for joining us. Appreciate it for those being with us in chat. And Andrew, thank you so much for joining me.
Not at all. My pleasure to be here.
All right. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.